I wanted to briefly touch on learned helplessness, because here we are really navigating a realm where mind control is prevalent, and it does affect the way our brain function, our behavior, and the decisions we are taking. Many of you, I think, have heard about the studies made on dogs, where they were really studying the effect of learned helplessness. And it's really a behavior that is exhibited by a subject after enduring repeated aversive stimuli. And it happens when beings are exposed to circumstances that are beyond their control. Of course, it's a way to diminish a lot of our manifestation abilities. It does plug us to what is inverted and encourages us to be more away from whatever is helpful to us. And it's something that comes first, in being in an incarnation, but there is a lot of programming done. So we are kind of encouraged to manifest from negative core beliefs. I mean, beings who are exposed to basically trauma-based mind control, because of course we have our cover lives and they have a degree of trauma to them, of course reinforced by the narratives that we see on the macro levels, anything that is coming from the media. And then there is also a micromanagement of our personal lives. And then it varies. It depends really where we are born, in which type of families, how many handlers were around us when we were growing up. Some have been less lucky than others. And there are for sure, I believe, reasons to that, that are to be found maybe beyond this life. But all of us, all of the real spirited, have a great deal of trauma to deal with. Many are struggling with anxiety. They don't always find an explanation in their daytime life. But the anxiety is there. So there is a reason. It's also because we are corded, our energy are drained, and we are used also beyond our knowledge and our memories. So it's really a lifelong work to work on recovering these memories. And when a subject is faced with these prolonged, stressful stimulations and states, really, they tend to develop a certain degree of passivity, of apathy, and of inertia. And it's something that is coming up for many, many people. Like it's a sort of underground thing going on. And we might not even be aware we are in these states because they are unconscious and they are so deeply ingrained that we don't even remember what it is to not be in inertia, not be in passivity, not be in apathy. So learned helplessness comes also from a high degree of exposure to traumatic or stressful life events. It tends to lead us to believe we are not able to change our situations. It tends to lead us to stay in situations that are not really optimal for us, and with that, we can think about any situation involving a handler, for example. And I think one of the worst case scenario is to live with one of your handlers, because then the access that it has, every day to sabotage, to interfere, to come at specific timing. It's really hard to bear for the nervous system. So sometimes we just bear with a situation and we don't even think about finding a solution, about bringing a situation to an end, maybe. Some of us are staying in the frozen mode, which is a type of coping mechanism and survival mechanism for sure. So that partly explains why depression is also so very widespread. And I see it coming up for many beings as an underground thing. Sometimes they are not even aware, or they are not even aware. It's so familiar, but this frequency is in their field. So we see a correlation between learned helplessness and these depressive states. And there is sure also a correlation with health, and kind of bathing in a certain amount of toxicity. And when we are finding ourselves in these states where we are sad or depressed, we often do not think about trying new things. We often don't have the strength and the impulsion in the belly area, the core strength, like to really change the fabric of what is going on in our life. So I've been reflecting on how learned helplessness is kind of very studied and applied to mind control assets, who are any spirited beings here, who are heavily used for their connection to source. So everything is made for these beings not to even think they can change so many things in their life and achieve many of their visions and their goals. I remember at university when I was studying cinema at the time, screenwriting. I had a friend back then, and she's kind of the perfect example of that learned helplessness, where I was coming with a lot of solution, how when sometimes people are sharing their problems, and if you're a healer or an intuitive person, you kind of have these insights coming into your field that you share with them. But she was very blocked into receiving any of these insights, and she was very stuck in that learned helplessness, which in terms of frequency can be very close to the victimhood consciousness. And she had both into her field. It's only a few years later that when I reflect back on this friendship, which I grew apart from because of that repeated aspect that was kind of presenting itself to me, where she was showing no progress in her life, and she was not ready to make any change. And later on, if we think about, non-spirited beings, backdrop character, I think she was one of these great examples, a friend that is not mean, that is kind of kind, that is well-intentioned, but that is staying very connected to the 3D levels, and that doesn't have really the ability to change. She was also getting physically sick, so developing an immune disease, lupus, and you know, but was she ready to change her food habits? I'm not sure. So the border between learned helplessness and feeling like a victim is really thin. This learned helplessness come with a lot of troubles to manage and change our behaviors. And it comes from the fact that stressful situations have been repeated over and over and over again. And if we think about the project, you know, any mind control project, we will, you know, and if we apply it to our life, if we dare to read that it did happen in our realities, even for beings who have no like conscious memories to be involved in government project, they also have like a frequency to them. These projects also have a frequency to them. And they also have specific effects on the mind and on the trauma they leave behind. So many of the spirited beings here currently give way too much credit to the cover life, the daytime life. And I mean, a lot can shift when we consider that there are different underground lives actually. And that these lives are gonna dictate how we're gonna feel during our daytime activity. And a lot can shift actually when we consider that we are waking up with trauma to clear. This change of perspective can change a lot. In how we organize and maybe the things we choose to do for ourselves. You know, it's an example that I've shared a few times, but for me, it used to be very difficult to take a bath before like 10 p.m. Because I had to do all these other things before I would allow myself, due to my own programming, to give myself that space. But nowadays, with shifting perspectives, it's something that I can do at whatever time in the day, sometimes even quite early. And when some days we are waking up with quite a lot of anxiety to clear actually, and it's okay to give ourselves the space that today is such a kind of day where we are taking good care of ourselves and just integrating this heavy load of trauma that we have woken up with. So learned helplessness has to do with learning to become very passive in the face and in reaction of trauma. For the dogs who were experimented on, they eventually, you know, the dogs that there was a system of reward and trauma and shocks as well, and they ended up by showing signs of depression as well. So most of the spirited beings here, the reals, do struggle or have struggled a lot with depression in their lives. They may never have been diagnosed as such. It was the case of my mother. She wasn't even aware she was living with that depression. And for her, it was both like the body and the trauma from the past, and the repeated trauma, the trauma that was added through her days. And a friend of mine, you know, you wouldn't, like with these beings, you would never feel that they are depressed, because in the conversation, they're never gonna let the energy go down. They're gonna be present and aware and kind of lighten up by your presence. So you might not be aware that they have this underground life. But if you find maybe their diaries, or maybe that's a place where they would like repeat some of the things they find really difficult, and they have maybe no hope about. Many beings in their 20s do struggle with the workspace, you know, the like finding a job, like so there is like this kind of like heaviness with some of the things we think we have to do to get certain thing, in this case money, and it's also because like the general model around us is a certain way, and we don't dare to, sometimes some of us don't dare to really question that model and reflect, is it something for us, or are we gonna comply to that, or not? So this learned helplessness is really installed as a big program to generate the fact that we are less that we could be in terms of problem solving and cognitive restructuring. It's a pattern I have observed in myself and in many, many others around me. And I have also observed the strong correlation between learned helplessness and depression-like symptoms. And I noticed when I trace back my own mind, where are my expectations of success going in my own mind? Do I dare to envision certain things? How am I building resilience? Do I consider that it's a failure to ask for help? What would help me to kind of make the next step? I've noticed that sometimes we don't even think about the possibilities and all the options we have in this reality, which is a game. So, you know very well that when a door is closing, you might not be aware of where you're gonna knock next, but until you kind of set yourself in motion, you're not gonna know. But you know that previously it always have worked out, you know, when there was emptiness. You know, I think about, so for example, when you work with one company and you start to notice that they have really dark associations, for example, because their delivery system is really aggressive by the way the postman behave maybe, and the energetic that they kind of send to your house, or maybe just in front of your house. So if you notice that, you know, that would be my case. Like I would probably say, okay, no more of this company and their dark association, because if I stop working with them, these beings don't come at my door. Pretty logical, right? So I need to find kind of the same product through other means, and there you might need some creativity sometimes. If for example, that was the only thing that you could find online on delivery, maybe now you have to look for option, maybe in the physical, geographical, 3D reality around you. And you know, you might have the idea during like a conversation with another spirited beings who kind of leave the field open for you to have the right types of idea, the next step on your path. So that's a good example how to overcome this learned helplessness, right? This passivity, just to be active in changing our direct environment and making choices that are serving us more and more. And it has to do with like a continuous retraining of the mind, because everything starts there. So I wanted to record this video just to share about my enthusiasm about really opening the possibilities of our minds, keeping on doing that, daring to envision really success even within the matrix and the game, even despite the resistance and the compression and the pressure and the gang stalking and the unpleasant aspects that comes with living in this reality, and to really expand the mind in building just way beyond where we leave our mind, where we let our mind go. For example, it can be like where we live, how to upgrade that. It can be all the different aspects of our lives, our work situation, or family situation, or entourage situation, the people we love, we have around. And I just wanted to make the link between the studies they make with this project and how they have applied these concepts to our mind. It's a way to psychologically, emotionally break us down. It's a way of control, and the programming is handling a lot of what we allow ourselves to really manifest here. And from my personal experience, I noticed that it doesn't take like a lot of allies to really build something really beautiful and healing and interesting and innovative. And I think that moment where you know you had enough, and maybe sometimes that anger that's going to give you the energy to kind of, you know, do something like change decisions, say no more to some places, and all of that. So it's really a frequency thing to overcome these patterns and to kind of beat the low frequency game. And great things are coming out from that. Seeing the instant result manifesting in reality is very encouraging. observing it in ourselves and in others. The frequency of this programming can be very, very heavy also in backdrops. Where this template is quite very active. I love to repattern, rewire how my mind works, how my brain. I love to assist others in doing so. So let me know if you have personal examples about learned helplessness that you have experienced yourself, or that you have witnessed all around you. And if you have any themes and a topic that you would like me to address in the next weeks and months, you can also leave your ideas. Sometimes it can be activating, and I can build also something. I mean, I have always inspiration to build, and a lot of work actually on my plate with many notes and endless notes, and it keeps on coming. So I'm always like working on integrating all my ideas. Some of these ideas are from my past selves, and some are from my new selves. And if I manage to stay clear in front of the distraction of my days, then I can step after step integrate some of these layers in the content that I create, that is of free access. So on my website, ariapersei.com, where you will find a lot of articles on health, on relationships, on deprogramming, on mind control, on animal life, and all of this, and also on in my videos, and in my courses, where I've been really appreciating to go deeper into deciphering, decoding, and going over many different templates that I've crossed paths with. They usually are great trainings of reading frequency signatures. So I have many more ideas to put into form, and for that, every day, as others, I also need to go against some of these apathy, inertia, kind of dense. It's the density of a day sometime, or the density of the day, really. It can be a dance, or like a non-martial battle, encounter, to feel that density, but no, we're not from it, and kind of give birth to all the inspiration that lives inside of us, because there is so much. And if I've observed it within myself, I'm pretty sure it is playing in the lives of so many other spirited beings. So I see you around, and thank you for tuning in.